Hello everyone, welcome back to the lecture series on crystallography. I am Dr. Atasi Rai, Assistant Professor of Physics, Department of Humanities and Science, MLR Institute of Technology, Hyderabad. So today I'll discuss about X-ray diffraction and Bragg's law. So what is this X-ray diffraction? We have to know what are the principles behind this X-ray diffraction. Before knowing that, we have to know what are X-rays. So X-rays are electromagnetic radiations which have wavelength around 0.01 to 10 nanometer, which is similar to the interatomic spacing, which is around 0.1 to 0.2 nanometer. So these are the interatomic spacing of crystals in general. Then we are studying the diffraction of X-ray. So what is this diffraction? So diffraction is the spreading and bending of waves as they encounter an obstacle or pass through a slit. So the condition for this diffraction is the incidence radiation must have wavelength in the order of the spacing of the slit or spacing of the obstacle. Here we can see as the X-ray having wavelength 0.01 to 10 nanometer, and this interatomic spacing is also in the order of nanometers. That's why when we have to study the diffraction of crystal, we have to use X-ray only. So X-ray diffraction is a powerful technique to study crystal structure. So based on the scattering of X-rays by atoms arranged periodically in a crystal lattice, and it will provide us information about the lattice parameters, atomic arrangement and effects. So when we are studying crystallography and we have to know the properties of a crystal, we have to know the specific orientation, and we have to know that orientation from this X-ray diffraction pattern also. And also several properties also we can know from this X-ray diffraction pattern. So unlike, as I have told, unlike visible light, if we are X-ray, we are passing this X-rays through any ordinary slit, it won't produce any diffraction pattern, because as I have mentioned before also, the condition for diffraction is the size of the obstacle or aperture must be comparable to the width of this wave or wavelength of this incident radiation. That's why X-ray diffraction we can observe only within this atoms or crystals. And this is a specific X-ray pattern. We can see here we have this some dark portion where, and we are getting some bright spots here. So this is the X-ray diffraction of a particular crystal, and why we are getting this bright and dark fringes here or bright spots within some dark background here. So what happens actually when we are passing X-ray through a crystal? I told crystal is regular periodic arrangement of atoms. So we have these atoms placed in a regular periodic arrangement. So this is a crystal lattice I am considering, and when this radiation will be falling on the atom, what will happen? These electrons within the atom will start vibrating. So we know that when we are having an atom in a particular lattice point, so here we have a positive ion core in atom. We have what we have? So we have a positive ion core, and around that positive ion core, electrons are revolving. Okay. So what happens? This X-ray will interact with that electron, and what will happen? That electron will start vibrating. So once this electron will start vibrating, it will be considered as a source of a secondary wave, and that wave will be scattered in all the possible direction. Since an accelerating charge emits radiation, the vibrating electron present inside a crystal becomes source of secondary wavelength, as I told, and it will have the same frequency as the incident X-ray. Then what will happen? This secondary X-ray will spread in all the direction, as I mentioned. Then if the wavelength of incident radiation is quite large compared to the atomic dimension, what will happen? So if we are taking this atomic dimension having interplanar spacing A, and this wavelength which is radiated lambda is much greater than A, then what will happen? Whichever will be the secondary rays produced, all the rays will be in phase with each other. So when it will be with phase, there won't be any interference pattern. But what happens in this X-ray diffraction? So here I told this wavelength is compared to the interatomic spacing. So that time, due to this comparable wavelength, all the secondary wavelength produced, it will be in out of phase, or it will be in some phase difference. So as those will be in out of phase with each other, that's why this radiation will undergo constructive or destructive interference. What is that? So if like two waves are traveling, and let's say the crest of one wave, this is our one wave, and top of it will be falling on that other wave which is like this. So these all are out of phase, but those are coming on the same time. Then what will happen? It will undergo constructive interference, and this wavelength and this amplitude will be modified. Because of that only we are getting that bright spots here. So we can see there are some bright spot within a dark background. Because of this diffraction, we are getting this kind of diffraction pattern. So whenever there will be maxima, we will get this bright spot, and when due to interference we are getting the minima, that time we are getting those dark spots. Then we have to study about this Bragg's law. This is a very important law in crystallography. So what is this law? So it tells that in constructive interference from waves reflecting off parallel crystal planes occurs when the path difference between the reflected wave in an integral multiple of the wavelength, leading to the equation this 2d sin theta is equal to n lambda, or n lambda is equal to 2d sin theta. So let's consider two parallel planes. So this is one atomic plane. I told atoms are arranged in a crystal in a periodic arrangement. Let us consider these are atoms which are arranged, and this is another plane which is parallel to the first plane. These two planes are parallel to each other. Then according to this Bragg's law, 2d sin theta is equal to n lambda, where d is the distance between two planes. So this is the d is distance between two planes, a is the interatomic distance, and lambda is the wavelength of incident X-ray, and theta is known as the glancing angle, which is the angle between the plane and the incident ray, or angle between the plane and the reflected ray. So this is known as glancing angle. And this Bragg's law is the basic law to determining crystal structure using X-ray diffraction. Now let's see how we are getting this equation 2d sin theta is equal to n lambda. So here as I have shown in this figure, we are considering two parallel planes which is separated with distance d, and the interatomic distance is considered as a here. So here we can see this is this is some z, and this is b, this is a, and this is c. You can consider, let's these are two waves are traveling. So this is wave 1 and this is ray 2. So these two are being reflected from this ray 1 is reflected from the first plane, and ray 2 is reflected from the second plane. Then what happens? This ray 2 is traveling some extra path than ray 1, and we have to find out the path difference between these two rays. So let's take a perpendicular on this second ray from the point where the first ray is incident on the plane. This is A, this is B. So in this figure we can see that this is this angle is theta, so this angle will be equal to theta. We can see this is theta, and this angle plus this angle is 90 degree. So this AZB plus again this angle is common to that, that is also 90 degree. So we can see, as this is glancing angle is theta, this angle AZB is also equal to theta. We can take out that triangle AZB. Here this is theta, and ZB is nothing but the distance between the two parallel planes, which is small d. So we can find out that extra distance. What is the extra distance? AB. So this AB is the extra distance. So we can write from trigonometry that sin theta is equal to how much? Sin theta is opposite by hypotenuse. So this is theta. So sin theta will be opposite is AB, opposite that angle AB divided by hypotenuse is D. So we can say that AB is equal to D sin theta. This is when the ray is incident. When the ray is being reflected, there also it is traveling an extra distance BC. So that BC is also equal to this D sin theta. The same way I have derived that this AB is equal to D sin theta. So this angle is also theta. So we can write that BC is also D sin theta. So here what is the path difference? Path difference is extra distance which this ray 2 is traveling than this ray 1. So the path difference will be D sin theta plus D sin theta. It will be 2D sin theta, and this path difference is equal to integral multiple of the wavelength. So let's n is the integer. I can write it as this path difference is D sin theta plus D sin theta, D sin theta plus D sin theta, which is like I have taken AB plus BC here. So it will be 2D sin theta. So I can represent this 2D sin theta is equal to n lambda. So this is the derivation of Black's law. So when we are solving some numerical problems, so from Black's law we can find the angle of incidence. Now let's take one example. So consider a simple cubic crystal with lattice constant A of 3.238 Armstrong and an interplanar spacing D for the 110 plane. If the X-ray of wavelength lambda is used 2.29 Armstrong, we have to calculate the angle of incidence. So this is the question. So how to solve it? Whenever we are solving any problem in physics, first let's take the input value. We have to write whatever is given. So here we have this A value is given, which is the interatomic distance, and we have the wavelength of incident wave ray, which is lambda, and n is 1. We are taking the first order diffraction. So that's why we are taking n is equal to 1, and the plane is given as 110. So what is Black's law? Then we have to write the law which is related to the given things with the thing which is asked, physical quantity which is asked. So what is asked here? We have to find the angle of incidence theta. So we can relate it through this Black's law. 2D sin theta is equal to n lambda. 2D sin theta is equal to n lambda. But here D value is not given. We have to find out this D also. So in the previous lecture, I have discussed about this Miller index and interplanar distance. So here the Miller index is given. This plane is 110 plane. That means Miller index H, K and L value is 1, 1 and 0 here. So as it is a cubic crystal, we can find the interatomic distance. D is equal to A by under root A square plus K square plus L square, and we'll get this 2.290 Armstrong. So this is the distance, interplanar distance. Then we can apply Black's law now. 2D sin theta is equal to n lambda. By solving this equation, we will get this sin theta is equal to 1 by 2. From that we can get theta is sin inverse 1 by 2, which is 30 degree. So if the interatomic distance or interplanar distance and the wavelength of the incident radiation is given, we can find out the angle between this incident ray and the plane, which is the glancing angle. And also we can find out the unit cell length if this angle and wavelength are given. So this is another example here. One X-ray of 173 picometer wavelength are reflected by the 1 plane of a cubic primitive cell. At theta is 30 degree, we have to calculate the unit cell length A. So here lambda is given, theta is given, and this plane is given. That means HKL value is given. Again, from this HKL we can find out this D, which is the interplanar distance. So and then we can apply this Black's law. N lambda is equal to 2D sin theta. So here this distance will get us 173 picometer. And Also, we can calculate the unit cell length from this distance. Here, d is equal to a by root 3. So, if we'll take the interplanar distance, we know d is equal to a by under root h square plus k square plus l square. So, we'll get a by under root 1 plus 1 plus 1. So, we'll get d is equal to a by root 3. So, from this d is equal to 8 by root 3, we can find a is equal to root 3 into d. So, we'll get to 99.636 picometer. This will be the interatomic distance. So, from this wavelength of incident radiation, glancing angle and plane also, we can find out the unit cell length for a particular unit cell. What are the application of this X-ray diffraction? Why we are studying it? So, we are studying X-ray diffraction because we can determine the crystal structure from this. We have seen in the previous examples that we can find out this interatomic distance, we can find out the interplanar distance, or we can find out the glancing angle. Like if one of those quantity will be given, we can find out the other quantities. And also we can measure the lattice parameters, which are the A, B, C, which are the length of the unit cells, and alpha, beta, gamma, which are the angles. So those lattice parameters can also be we can get from this X-ray diffraction pattern. And we can also identify unknown crystalline materials from this X-ray diffraction pattern. And we can study the crystal defects or dislocations in any crystal. So if there is what are these dislocations or defects? So I told crystal is a regular periodic arrangement of atoms. So if there will be any irregularity in that arrangement, that dislocation or defect can be also determined from this X-ray diffraction pattern. And this X-ray diffraction is very much important to study this physics, chemistry, material science and biology. So like in biology, we can, when we have to study this protein structure, we can do this X-ray diffraction. So in the summary of this presentation, we have studied about this X-ray diffraction, which is a fundamental tool in crystallography, and we have discussed about this Bragg's law, which gives the condition for X-ray diffraction, and this X-ray diffraction is widely applicable in science and engineering to analyze different crystal structures and properties of material. So this is all about this lecture about our X-ray diffraction and Bragg's law. Thank you.